Here's the last record in the file.
What about the sensitive material from several years ago Montrose told us about?
Yeah, what about
Mysteriously missing.
Christmas Day, huh? That is one dedicated caseworker.
that? Yeah. Nobody visits on Christmas Day. Well, no, but she didn't even know where it was. Still asleep. Well, she did sleep late. I was at the top of the World Trade Center. We had the ticket there. He wasn't dead at that time. Both spent Christmas in Dawson County. He was at the World Trade Center. Good job.
That's one lying caseworker. We got a ticket says Aaron Bauer was at the top of the World Trade Center at 2 that afternoon.
This report's a complete fabrication, no question. But who do we indict? Simplest thing would be to go after the caseworker, but...
Montrose says he prefers to be the point of contact with the city.
Then let's give him what he wants.
Right. Increase the detective rank. Nice. Office of District Attorney.
Throughout his career, Stefan Montrose has continually shone a light on the system's indifference to its most vulnerable citizens. Tuesday afternoon, the system struck back.
We know what the columns are saying, Miss Jameson. We intend to prove that Dr. Montrose is guilty as charged.
Manslaughter with gross negligence?
Yeah.
In addition to one count of falsification of records with intent to deceive.
I'm afraid you won't get the chance to present those records in court. I'm filing a motion to suppress.
No. Without them, got
Paperwork
nothing.
went through the day before the subpoena was served. Good Shepherd is no longer run by the Archdiocese of New York. It's now an entirely private agency, administered through Dr. Montrose's holding company, New Directions.
So you propose to throw out the evidence because we put the wrong address on the subpoena? Of all the underhanded ploys.
The argument is technically correct. Improper service of a subpoena invalidates admissibility.
That's right.
The court finds for the motion.
There's no
Fine.
choice. You
We'll
let one
proceed
through, you
without
let
it.
them all through. You got to do it legally. Trial part 31.
Dr. Montrose, we've heard in graphic detail about the final days of Aaron Bauer. It's natural to feel pity and perhaps even outrage over the manner in which he died. So tell the court, are you in fact guilty of gross negligence?
No, I am not.
Of course he's going to
Let
say
me read
no.
you a quote. Neglect is built into our current welfare system. The client is a mere asset to be kept or traded as it benefits the agency.
Ah, you're reading to me from my own book, The Empty High Chair, published last spring. My agency is different.
Indeed, Good Shepherd is distinguished for treating its clients with dignity, as individuals with needs. Isn't that right?
No.
That is our guiding principle. Yes.
Were you personally involved in the case of Aaron Bauer?
Really bothered with that
I
bit,
involve
really.
myself personally in every one of my cases.
Yeah,
and this was
liar.
especially true with respect to Aaron.
How
Liar.
so?
When the Bowers first came to my attention, Aaron had been taken into state custody and shut away inside City Youth Home. I know that institution well. I spent my own formative years there. Nobody deserves to go to City Youth Home. Nobody.
And yet, despite your personal involvement in this case, Aaron Bauer was killed. How do you explain this?
One word: drugs. First it was the crack epidemic. Now, just as that's beginning to subside, an even worse plague is sweeping through New York. It's a plague that destroys mostly those on the margins, so it's easy for the rest of us to ignore.
Do you have some ideas for addressing this problem?
Can we get to the
Objection!
point? Immaterial.
Immaterial. The defendant is changing the subject.
Sustained. Please strike that last statement from the testimony. New York City is not on trial here.
Jenna Bauer lapsed back into addiction, unbeknownst to you, although your caseworker visited her as recently as Christmas Day.
I'm afraid that's correct. In spite of our vigilance, in spite of intensive therapy, the siren call of crystal meth proved too much for her. And once she began using again, she quickly became a danger to her son.
So why...
How did she manage to pull the wool over your eyes?
It's one of the most insidious aspects of the syndrome. I've seen it many times. The addict puts up a false front of normalcy. A front that can fool even a trained observer.
Oh, come on. Even we could see she was
Objection.
an addict. No expert standing.
No expert standing.
Your Honor, Dr. Montrose is director of a licensed welfare agency.
That just
he holds a
means he's
PhD in
not a
social
shop
work from
owner.
Cornell. He is eminently qualified to comment on the behavior of addicts.
Agreed. Objection overruled.
Damn
One
it.
last question. Has this tragedy caused you to re-examine your practice?
Naturally,
course.
we're thoroughly reviewing our procedures. We exist to serve our clients. The death of one impoverishes us all.
Of course. Thank you, Dr. Montrose. Your witness, Mr. McCoy.
Oh, no.
Dr. Montrose.
Give it to him. Visitation guidelines.
Your agency advocated for Jenna Bauer in her bid to regain custody of her son, Aaron. In retrospect, was this in Aaron's best interest?
Considering his fate,
Hindsight is a
the
wonderful
answer
thing,
has to be
darling.
no. But hindsight is always 20/20.
At the time, you believed the opposite to be self-evident, right? Every mother deserves to retain the custody of her children?
We weighed the pros and cons of Jenna Bauer's case, and we came to the conclusion that she deserved a second chance. Perhaps if
about
we had
Aaron?
more facts at our disposal,
Did
we
he
would have
deserve
agreed
a
with the
second
city's
chance?
decision.
Montrose claimed earlier that he fought against giving Jenna Bauer custody. Earlier admitted that he took up Jenna's petition without thinking. Alternative was for City Youth Home. Montrose saying nobody deserves to go there, said the Bauers were clients of Good Shepherd. Anything to get him out of there.
In this case, the alternative was placing Aaron in City Youth Home. You simply didn't want him there. Dr. Montrose, have you ever signed off on moving a child from his parents' custody into the institutional foster care system?
No.
Let's do the visitation.
State guidelines for social welfare agencies mandate one home visit per month at the very least.
You needn't lecture me. I'm well acquainted with state guidelines.
Do you follow them?
Yes, Mr. McCoy.
Of course he's going to say
we
yes.
follow the state guidelines, meticulously.
Good Shepherd didn't have its own guidelines?
No.
Do you believe him? No. He was against the establishment all the way through. Montrose testified that state guidelines don't apply. Caseworker admitted that Good Shepherd makes up the rules. Montrose told the detectives that his agency makes its own guidelines. Memo about revised guidelines discovered in case file. Let's think. That one. Makes his own guidelines. I think he said that when
Didn't
he
you
was
tell
in the
the
office.
detectives that Good Shepherd makes its own guidelines?
I don't recall saying anything of the sort.
Think back, Dr. Montrose. It was during the same interview in which you refused to turn over Aaron Bauer's case files. In clear violation of standard procedure...
Objection. Immaterial.
It goes to credibility, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I won't deny that our agency operates according to unique procedures, but if anything, our guidelines are more comprehensive than the state's.
Really? So let's, yeah, the apartment was a mess. Let's go to the apartment and then come back to visitation.
You've heard
Throw him
Detective
off
Curtis's
scent for a
account of
little
what he
while.
found in Jenna Bauer's apartment, and you've seen the pictures.
Indeed I have. What can I say? Appalling. I had no idea until this very morning when my counsel showed me the pictures.
Is it plausible that Dr. Montrose had no idea of the state of the burning? Well, if he's never been, but no. He should have been. Should have known. He should have got it from the caseworker. That's call from the apartment. That's on the Mrs. Bauer remarked that Montrose had visited on Christmas. No. Montrose earlier testified that he arrived at the apartment soon after the detectives left. Montrose indicated the knowledge of items found in the apartment. No. Let's go with that one. No!
You're the expert, Dr. Montrose. Do you think it's possible for conditions to degenerate that rapidly in a mere 8 days?
It's possible, I suppose. But I have to admit, if I were an outside observer, I'd find it a difficult story to swallow.
Yeah.
Indeed, if it weren't for my faith in my employer, Miss Schuyler, I'd be inclined to think it was a story.
Really? No further questions, Your Honor.
Trial part 38.
Defense calls Wanda Schuyler to the witness stand. I know this is difficult for you,
No,
Miss
this is the
Schuyler,
one to
but I
break.
want you to recall for us the moment you stepped into Jenna Bauer's apartment on January 1st.
It was like stepping off a cliff, you know?
Because of your feelings for Mrs. Bauer, you mean?
Right,
Because
shut
you cared about her so much?
Shut up. Shut up. Lead in.
Objection!
Lead in.
Leading?
Sustained.
Would you say you had a personal connection with Aaron Bauer?
Yes, I did. Aaron, he was a great kid. Talented, you know. He wanted to be a comic book artist when he grew up. He and I had a little private game where he pretended I was a superhero.
But he didn't say or do anything in the last few months to indicate his home life was deteriorating?
No, you know how boys can be at his age. Stoic. He probably thought it would be unmanly or disloyal to tattle on his mom.
Would I like to object? No.
How long have you been employed with Good Shepherd, Miss Schuyler?
It'll be 3 years in April.
And in that time, has Dr. Montrose ever encouraged you to be negligent in your duties?
Not at all, no. Dr. Montrose is an inspiration. He knows firsthand how broken the system is, and he's completely passionate about reforming it. It's energizing. I only wish... I just wish this hadn't happened to him. I mean, to all of us.
Of course. We all do. Your witness.
Okie dokie. Condition of the apartment.
Miss Schuyler, Dr. Montrose has testified that you visited the Bauers in their apartment on Christmas Day. At that time, did you find any indications that Jenna Bauer had lapsed back into her addiction to crystal meth?
I didn't see any... I never made that visit. I don't have an excuse. I simply failed to do my job, and then I faked the report after the fact to cover up.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, Dr. Montrose.
That's not what you said at the deposition. Are you changing your testimony, Miss Schuyler?
I guess so.
Were you briefed about this? Your Honor, prosecution was unprepared for this development. We petitioned the court for a continuance.
Petition granted. We will resume trial next week.
Oh, no. This case has just taken a turn for the worse. The jury doesn't know what to make of Wanda Schuyler's testimony. To win it over, you'll need to convince the witness to change sides. Office of District
I've been at the bar 30 years, Miss Jameson, but I don't think I've ever witnessed such a blatantly unethical maneuver. Instructing a witness to change her testimony without altering the deposition.
You have no grounds for accusing me of complicity.
You'd better hope I don't find any. Now, why are you protecting Dr. Montrose?
Don't let yourself be intimidated, Miss Schuyler. You don't have to answer anything.
No, but you do have to go to jail if you're found guilty of falsifying documents.
Yep.
We need you to come clean. Please.
Appeal to principles, self-interest, appeal to Aaron's memory.
If you're telling the truth about forging that report, then you must have lied when you said you cared about Aaron.
That's not true. I did care. We had a bond.
Huh. Well, I believe the bond, yeah. Based on what evidence? Aaron's red scarf was a Christmas gift. Wonder Woman drawing found in Aaron's bag.
Why would you neglect your duties towards someone you care about?
Aha. Appeal to self-interest. Let's do with the Wonder Woman and appeal to that.
You mentioned on the stand something about a private game between you and Aaron.
It was just a silly joke. It didn't mean anything.
Well, be the
It
Wonder
did to
Woman
him, I
now.
think.
You were his hero, but you failed.
You have to understand.
Wanda, be quiet.
I can't. You know I believe in Dr. Montrose, but I just can't. You'd better go.
I represent you.
No.
Not anymore.
Ha ha ha.
Now, what's the real story?
Da 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 da. Trial part 44.
Miss Schuyler, I hold here your personal copy of a visitation report dated December 25th, signed by you and Dr. Montrose.
Look it up.
Did you write this report?
No,
Who did?
Dr. Montrose.
But this is your signature.
Yes,
When did you sign it? After they found him dead?
When did you sign this document?
January 2nd.
The day after you discovered Aaron Bauer was dead.
Uh-huh.
Why?
If you didn't write this report, why did you put your name on it?
He said, Dr. Montrose told me the city wanted to use the Bauer tragedy as a pretext for legal action, taking over the agency. Putting my name on that document was the only way to save it.
Yes. Shift told McCoy that the city wants to take over. Defense attorney announced that Good Shepherd is now a public agency. Mrs. Bauer expressed concern that it should be dropped as a client once Good Shepherd went public. Dr. Montrose told the detectives that working with the city would lead to the city taking over. Don't know, first one? Ah! Missed it. I know. I've only got one more chance on this one. Let's talk about the last visit.
When did you last visit Jenna and Aaron Bauer?
Last spring? 8 months ago.
Wow. The Bowers arrived in New York. No, that was earlier. Mrs. Tallis' last visit to Manhattan. Book was published. I can't remember. Wanda Schuyler was hired by Good Shepherd. No, she usually comes in the fall. Book published. I don't know. Oh no!
Just after Dr. Montrose's book was published.
Yes, that's when things started getting really crazy
Oh,
for
I'm gonna
all of
lose
us.
this.
We were flooded with new clients. There was no way we could keep up with them. And then one day, Dr. Montrose called us into his office and told us about his new early graduation program.
Prosecution has exceeded the time allotted for questioning. This entire testimony will be stricken from the record.
Oh no!
Miss Schuyler, I
Yes.
hold here your personal copy of a visitation report dated December 25th, signed by you and Dr. Montrose.
Right, let's talk about visitation. Look at that! Look! Look! Nearly full up.
Did you write this report?
No,
Who did?
Dr. Montrose.
But this is your signature.
Yes.
So,
When did you sign this document?
January 2nd.
The day after you discovered Aaron Bauer was dead.
Uh-huh.
right, let's do the motivation.
Why do you think Dr. Montrose ordered you to perpetrate this fraud?
Objection. Prosecution is asking the witness to speculate on the defendant's motives.
Objection sustained.
Damn it.
If you didn't write this report, why did you put your name on it?
He said, Dr. Montrose told me the city wanted to use the Bauer tragedy as a pretext for legal action, taking over the agency. Putting my name on that document was the only way to save it.
I suppose. Dr. Montrose told the detectives that working with the city would lead to the city taking over. Oh, yes. Talk about the last visit.
When did you last visit Jenna and Aaron Bauer?
Last spring? 8 months ago.
Did something relevant happen last spring? His book was published. Yes. Has that pushed it back
Just
enough?
after Dr. Montrose's book was published.
Yes,
gone down
that's when
quite a
things
bit now.
started getting really crazy for all of us. We were flooded with new clients. There was no way we could keep up with them. And then one day, Dr. Montrose called us into his office and told us about his new early graduation program.
Early graduation program?
Tell us about Dr. Montrose's early graduation program.
He said he determined that a number of our clients no longer needed our services.
What?
According to state guidelines.
No, according to his own guidelines. He called them his early graduates. He mailed each of them a certificate and a one-time payment of $1,000 in exchange for...
In exchange for them keeping quiet.
Yes.
Your witness.
So vulnerable people were written off the
We need to
books
talk.
for $1,000. And she had $1,000
Ready to cut a deal?
receipt.
My
thing.
fate is immaterial, Mr. McCoy. My sole concern is to keep the reform movement from falling apart.
Very noble. What are you proposing?
Dr. Montrose pleads to negligence and serves a 12-month probation. He agrees to step aside and allow an acting director to run Good Shepherd for the length of the term.
Oh, what an example of self-sacrifice that is. I've got a better idea, Dr. Montrose.
Looks like we're fighting this one to the end. See you in court,
yeah,
McCoy.
definitely, matey. Trial part 49.
Welcome back to the stand, Dr. Montrose. Perhaps this time we can get to the truth.
Caseworker.
Wanda Schuyler has made some remarkable assertions. Would you care to revise any of your previous statements in the light of her testimony?
Well, clearly I was mistaken in claiming that Good Shepherd did everything it could to avert this tragedy. The caseworker assigned to the Bowers was negligent. Criminally negligent.
Were you aware of her negligence? Did you in fact order her to stop making home visits?
Self-serving lies. I'm guilty of trusting in her professionalism, nothing else.
No,
I'm a very busy man, Mr.
we got an
McCoy. I don't
evidence
get
of
personally
a
involved in every
$1,000
case.
payment. That's the same. Is this statement consistent with Dr. Montrose's testimony? He remarked earlier that he had ample free time, already admitted that he halted home visits. Testified earlier that he does get personally involved. Testified that he supervises his employees. I don't know. I don't know. Hello. That one? That got involved personally, especially Aaron.
Allow me to read from the transcript. Counsel for the defense. Were you personally involved in the case of Aaron Bauer? Defendant. I involve myself, personally, in every one of my cases.
Well, Yes, I said that, but there's only so much of me to go around.
What about this program then?
Wanda Schuyler mentioned an early graduation program. Dr. Montrose, did you issue payouts to your clients, then drop them from your active client list without ever informing Child Protective Services?
Of course not. That's a complete fabrication.
Yes. We can refute it. Not the diploma? Oh, there was, wasn't there? Elijah testified he graduated. Hang on a minute. Visitation reported listed Aaron Barr as 1,000 receipts. That's what we found. Why would he give a receipt?
Your Honor, I would like to submit People's Exhibit D into evidence. A receipt for a $1,000 check issued to Jenna Bauer by the defendant's holding company, New Directions.
Objection. Immaterial. New Directions is a completely different and unconnected corporate entity. If they issued a check to Jenna Bauer, that has no bearing on Dr. Montrose's culpability.
Can you refute? Of course. Don't know how though. I just said yes. New Directions and Good Shepherd are both administered. New Directions now owns Good Shepherd. Caseworker said New Directions is a Good Shepherd pilot program. Montrose mistakenly referred to Good Shepherd as New Directions. That one? No.
Hardly immaterial, Your Honor.
Agreed. Objection overruled.
So, did you send Mrs. Bauer a $1,000 check last April, Dr. Montrose? Or is that also a complete fabrication?
I may have done so.
You don't remember?
I believe I did.
What prompted you? Charity?
Of course. The Bowers were very poor. They needed help.
Yes, they did. But you gave them cash.
Dr. Montrose has devoted his life to helping those who have been failed by the system. But some, sadly, are beyond help. And sometimes a good agency can be undone by the actions of one dishonest employee. If Wanda Schuyler hadn't failed to discharge her duties, and then compounded her failure with lies, might Good Shepherd have been able to save Jenna and Aaron Bauer? We'll never know. It's a bitter irony that a champion of reform should fail to spot the corruption among his own staff. He can be faulted, perhaps, for being too trusting, too optimistic about human nature. Surely this is no crime. But if my client is convicted of these charges, if he's sent to jail and his reform movement is crushed by the powers that be, it will be more than a crime. It will be an outrage.
Destabilizing, abandoned his clients, beware reformers, blinded him, panicked and covered his tracks. He did cover his tracks, and abandoned his clients. Let's go with that one.
Dr. Montrose made his name arguing that our welfare system treats its clients like numbers. He proposed to treat them with dignity as individuals. His message resonated with millions, and he became famous. But the demands of celebrity caused him to neglect his own principles. In the end, his own clients were reduced to numbers. Numbers on checks.
Right. Panicked and covered his tracks.
The deaths of Aaron and Jenna Bauer left Dr. Montrose with a terrible decision to make. He could acknowledge his agency's mistake, but this would compromise his moral authority as a public advocate. Or he could cover up the evidence of his neglect and perhaps preserve his reputation at the expense of his integrity. Dr. Montrose chose the less noble expedient.
I don't know. Let's go
Dr.
that one.
Montrose has made a career of criticizing other child welfare agencies. Hundreds of bureaucrats, good, hard-working people, have been slandered by his rhetoric. Should our judgment of him be more merciful than his judgment of us?
Right.
Children belong with their parents. This is a sentiment that resonates with us, and we can be grateful that Dr. Montrose's advocacy has helped push our welfare system to take the claims of parents more seriously. But not every individual case conforms to the ideal. In the case of Jenna and Aaron Bauer, the defendant's ideals blinded him to the realities of the case and led him to make a serious error. What causes people to commit crimes of gross negligence? I've run across many motives in my day: resentment, greed, indifference, callousness. Dr. Montrose is motivated to make the world a better place. His good intentions, it seems, have blinded him to the evil he has perpetrated. That's what makes him a tragic figure and a dangerous one. And that's why it's so imperative that justice be done.
Have you reached a verdict?
Oh, you
We
made him
have, Your
sound
Honor.
innocent,
In
and
the
it was
case of
his
gross
fault.
negligence, we find the defendant, Stephen Montrose, guilty as charged. In the case of manslaughter,
Another victory for truth and justice.
Is it? Good Shepherd will go into receivership, and before long it'll be just another child welfare agency.
Montrose was a fraud, Jack. He got what he deserves.
But does his movement deserve to die? How many parents are going to lose their kids as a result of this decision?
Hey, it's not our job to second guess. Our job is to call them as we seize them, and trust that it'll all work out in the end. Come on, let's get a drink.
Allison, you look great.
I feel great. I've even been running again. Where's Detective Curtis?
His daughter's birthday tonight. So, I'm guessing your recovery is going better than the last time we talked.
Last time we talked, I was in a coma. I've been seeing a hypnotherapist, of all things.
Anything jog your memory? Sorry, I was terrible.
No, I do remember running with Harrison. The orange overhead lamps and the trees. But that's it. Nothing after. I'm sorry.
Don't be. Trauma like this, there's often memory loss.
I still miss him, though. Harrison's family's been great. His father's been taking care of all the bills. And, of course, he's pleased as punch about his new grandson. We're calling him Brendan.
Good. We sort of wondered if this surprise grandbaby might be a problem.
Not at all. So we weren't married. So we were in high school. Things like this teach you that stuff doesn't matter. Grandpa Bedford loves that boy to death.
Any more thoughts on who would have wanted to kill Harrison?
No, everyone loved him. You really think someone targeted him? In the papers, they just call it a thrill kill.
Yeah, don't believe everything you read.
Well, thanks for everything, Detective. I'm sorry I can't help more.
Take care, Allison.
Ah. On to the next one.